Well, Walter's usual thing is he found copyright-free music.
Yeah.
And this probably is not, but Oh, the music stand for me got reappropriated. They took the music stand for Melissa from next to the chair. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Good morning. Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Toledo on June 15th, 2025. I'm Reverend Tim Barger. Though I'm the senior minister of the church, I'm today's service associate, as David Strickler, up here with me, who is our commissioned lay minister, is the service leader and will preach. And Rebecca Phillips, who was scheduled to be the service leader today, was called out of town. Jeffrey Maxey, our music director, who also directs our choir, is at the piano today. Jenny Gottman had planned to be here to tell today's story, but she had to remain at home today, so David and I will tag team the story time. And the tech crew today, if I recall, is led by Andy Gottman as our director. Jeff Slauson is on the cameras, and if he needs to, he will slide over to the soundboard, but we also have Jeffrey Maxey working with some sound. And Walter McGee, our producer, is still away, but continues to prepare our slides for the screen, and we hope he'll be back with us soon. We have many more volunteers helping too, with greeters in the lobby, religious education helpers for today's RE activities, and we have a kitchen crew preparing for coffee hour, and the coffee coordinator is Carla Logan Mercer. The only doctrine of our church is love, the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We welcome everyone as we sang in our opening song. If you are a visitor, you may notice in the pew rack in front of you a yellow card that helps us to know that we have new seekers here, so please fill that out. We also welcome you who are joining us on our Toledo Unitarians YouTube channel. We hope this time serves your spirit.
Turn your mic on. I didn't feel like...
David, tap your mic. The other side. I'm not hearing anything. Okay. There could be a short in the cord.
As Tim likes to claim, let's all say the words to the chalice while we do that. Because we're on display, and we're over the streets. Chalice. Spirit of Unitarian-Universalist, whose light is centered in love, may glow with sacredness and shine for each and for all. Let's continue reciting together, with Tim leading us in the covenant of our congregation. This is not a creed, but what we share with general agreement.
Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
My mic is not working. I can use it. Okay. Good morning again. During this first of 3 intentional times of spiritual practice in our Sunday services, we look beyond ourselves, considering celebrations and sorrows and the state of things. The images earlier this week from Los Angeles of armed and masked government agents facing off against U.S. citizens was alarming. The people who are the targets of those government agents are likely feeling terrified and fearful for their loved ones. And many of us watching from afar might be feeling powerless, anxious, and afraid for our country. The more recent tragic news from Minnesota also weighs on our hearts. The shootings of 2 elected lawmakers and their spouses will likely fuel more fear and anger. And perhaps we are feeling grief. Grief for the loss of empathy and the moral compass in our nation. Grief for the cruel actions that have been shamelessly inflicted and endorsed. And grief for the ongoing denigration of human dignity and worthiness. Today is Father's Day. We celebrate and thank the fathers who show up every day to support and love the children who need them. We hold love for those who have lost fathers and for those fathers who have lost children. We hold compassion for those fathers kept apart from their children by borders, wars, financial burden, or by unjust laws. Family relations can be complicated, so we grieve with those who have experienced rejection, abuse, shame, or abandonment by their fathers. There are people in our circles who, with their family and friends, have challenges of life and death, health and illness, home and travel, financial security, and monetary stress. Decisions are being made by ourselves and others on how we can live our best lives, which means sometimes aspiring to that and realizing we have moves yet to make to reach aims and goals. And individual and family ways go on, with new lives born and many other joys and celebrations. We all have bad days and good. May kindness and gentleness be with us. May we be compassionate to all, as we don't know what other people are going through. So treat one another well, and may we be glad for their celebrations and ours. Let's continue to have First Unitarian be a place of welcome, of grace, even of refuge from hard times, and that in this religious community, we can help one another care for ourselves and have our part in changing the world. Please share mercy and offer dignity, and remember to breathe. One reason we join in religious gatherings is to realize our common links. The uncommon is here too. Let us be together in faith, hope, and love. Amen. Now please join in our opening hymn, number 348, Guide My Feet. For those who are willing and able, please stand. I think this mic is working, and I think I'm going to really throw the audio crew off, or the technical crew off here. Let's see if I can get this mic over here. While I figure out where I'm going to be, I invite any kids to come up, and any adults who want to be with their kids can come up. But you know what? We're going to do it right here. We're going to do it right here. So if you guys want to sit there, that'd be great. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we've got an unusual special story today. Who's familiar with Mad Libs? Jalen, Terry, well done. Krista, I'm not surprised. So it's a storytelling game. I'm going to ask for some words. Tim's going to write them down, and you are going to fill in the words for me. And then when we have the words chosen, we'll get a silly story out of this. So I'm going to need 6 different words for our story today. I'm going to tell you what kind of word I need, and then just feel free to call out suggestions from your seats. And of course, those up front are especially encouraged. First, I need a place, a real or imaginary place. School. Okay. Now.
Oh, I guess I ought to write it better, huh?
Now, I need a big feeling. Mad? Mad. Okay. How about a kind of animal, real or imaginary? Jalen. Oh, wait. Hold on to that, Jalen. Did you have one? Manatee. Okay, you're next, Jalen. Can you spell that, Tim?
I got it.
Got it. Okay. Now I need an object that you can carry. Jalen. What's that? Egg?
Egg.
Egg. Got it. That's a nice short one, too. Good, good. You don't even know what I'm asking yet. But I appreciate your enthusiasm. Absolutely. Okay. A type of weather. Go ahead. Lightning. I like that. I like that. Okay. Think long and hard about this one. I need a silly sound effect. Go ahead, Jalen, if you got one. Okay, go ahead. Fart. In this Unitarian church, we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every function, of every person. So here we go. Let's see if I can do this. So our story is called The Great Improvisation and was written by a religious educator named Oh, I'm sorry. You got to make when we say that word, you got to make the sound effect. Okay. Okay, it's written by a religious educator named Tim Atkins. Once upon a time, in a place called school, a big celebration was about to begin. The Festival of Surprises. People came from near and far, dressed in bright colors, bringing instruments and ukuleles, games and snacks. Everything was carefully planned except for one small detail. The storyteller, the one who was supposed to tell the story, was stuck in traffic. Very, very stuck. Panic rippled through the crowd. Who will tell the story now? Someone cried. The band didn't know what to do. The dancers were too nervous to go without the music. The snack table had already run out of cookies. Not yet. A young traveler named Nova stepped forward, her heart full of
madness.
I could try something, Nova said. I've got my lucky
egg
and my best friend and
manatee
named Pickle. The festival director looked doubtful. Do you have a plan? Well, not exactly, said Nova, but I've got imagination. And with that, the music started, sort of. Nova strummed the
Egg.
Like a guitar, and Pickle danced like a leaf in the wind. The crowd began to giggle, then cheer, and then dance along. Nova turned the rhythm into a clapping game, then a sing-along, then a guessing game. It wasn't what anyone expected, and that's what made it wonderful. Just then, things were going well. Disaster struck.
Lightning.
Rolled in. Tents flapped, balloons bounced, a pie flew into someone's face. Nova paused for a second, then turned the pie into a hat and declared, "Fashion show time." Everyone joined in. Cloaks made out of napkins, sunglasses made of spoons. One person wore an entire fruit salad. Pickle balanced 3 jelly beans on his nose. And then the microphone broke. Seems unrealistic, doesn't it? But Nova didn't panic. Instead, she cupped her hands and whispered loudly. The kids whispered too. The grown-ups started whispering jokes. The Festival of Surprises had become the Festival of Whispers. When the sun began to set, the late storyteller finally arrived, flustered and apologetic. But when she saw the crowd dancing, laughing, whispering, and wearing hats made of pie, she just stood in awe. "I think you've already created the best story possible," she said. Nova blushed. "We didn't plan it. I just rolled with it." And Pickle said, again,
Friends, this story might be silly, but the message behind it is deep. Life is full of surprises, and sometimes those surprises aren't the fun kind. Things break, people cancel, storms come, politicians are elected. Improvisation, the ability to adapt, try something new, be playful, can be a spiritual practice. It teaches us to trust ourselves, trust each other, and have faith that something beautiful can still happen, even when the original plan falls apart. It reminds us that we are connected to each other and that we can create joy in the middle of a mess. That's a holy kind of magic. So the next time your plans fall apart, take a breath. Then pick up your lucky
egg
and see what kind of new joy you can create.
All right, thank you all. Thank you so much. For our turning inward time, I have a reading adapted from a committee. The committee is the UUA Side with Love organizing team. And this reading is entitled, A Lamentation for the Current Time. Spirit of life, we gather with our hearts broken open, souls aching, by the weight of the world, by the wounds of history, by the cruel persistence of injustice. How long, O Spirit, must our bodies be made into battlegrounds? How long must the earth be sacrificed at the altar of profit? How long must we abide by an economy of disposability where Black, Indigenous, people of color, transgender, and disabled lives are compromised for another's right to exist or another's claim of safety? We lament the silence that is stretched too long, the complicity woven into our comforts, the slowness of our response when urgency was demanded. We grieve the gap between our values and our actions, between the pragmatic and the prophetic. Forgive us for the times we have turned away. Forgive us when we have mistaken quiet for peace and civility and decorum for justice. But let this lament not be the end. Let our sorrow carve space for resolve. Let our tears water the seeds of uprising. Let our faith rise from the ashes, not innocent, but braver, wiser, more centered in love. May we be a people who side with love. May we be a people who disrupt, who dismantle, and who dream. May we be a people who remember that we are always on the horizon of transformation, and there may we greet our collective liberation. May it be so. Amen. Let's observe a minute of silence.
Our reading today by Henry David Thoreau, an inspiring transcendentalist and Unitarian from the 19th century, uses the language of its time. This is an excerpt from his essay on the duty of civil disobedience. Witness the present Mexican War, the work of comparatively a few individuals using the standing government as their tool. For in the outset, the people would not have consented to this measure. Must the citizen ever, for a moment or in the least degree, resign his conscience to the legislator? Why has every man a consequence then? I think that we should be men first and subject afterward. It is not desirable to cultivate a respect for the law so much as for the right. Law never made men a whit more just, and by means of their respect for it, even the well-disposed are daily made the agents of injustice. There are thousands who are in opinion opposed to slavery and to the war, who yet effect do nothing to put an end to them, who sit down with their hands in their pockets and say they know not what to do and do nothing. What is the price of an honest man and patriot today? They hesitate and they regret and sometimes they petition, but they do nothing in earnest and with effect. They will wait, well disposed, for others to remedy the evil, that they may no longer have it to regret. There are 999 patrons of virtue to one virtuous man. Unjust laws exist. Shall we be content to obey them, or shall we endeavor to amend them and obey them until we have succeeded? Or shall we transgress them at once? If injustice is part of government, then I say break the law. If 1,000, if 100, if one honest man in this state of Massachusetts was locked up in the county jail, therefore, for not owning slaves, it would be the abolition of slavery in America. For it matters not how small the beginning may seem to be, what is once well done is done forever. But we love better to talk about the authority of government is still an impure one. To be strictly just, it must have the sanction and consent of the governed. It can have no pure right over my person and property, but what I concede to it.
I was surprised how I felt after attending the recent protests. I felt invigorated and renewed. Prior to the first protest, the hands-off event on April 5th, I had doubts. What can we accomplish with signs and chants? Will it make any significant difference to the issues I find so concerning? When I arrived at that gathering location, I was pleasantly surprised to see that so many people had turned out. The line of marchers progressing across the bridge was already long. I heard an estimate of 4,000 attendees. I ran into several friends during the walk. Most were current or former members of this congregation, and I conversed with a few folks that I didn't know, which countered any lingering skepticism about the importance of that civil protest. I felt reassured and connected. I felt some hope. After the march, Walter McGee, our video director, forwarded some photos that someone else had sent him. Walter didn't realize it, but those photos included other people that I knew, 2 former coworkers and 2 fellow birders from the weekly walks at Woodlawn Cemetery. Again, I felt connected and hopeful. On April 19th, also known as Patriots' Day, the 50501 protest, was held in front of the Lucas County Courthouse. This rally was smaller, 1,000 to 2,000 people maybe, all lining Adams Street with protest signs. I saw some different acquaintances at that protest, including my former boss and a docent acquaintance from the Toledo Museum of Art. I recognized someone from the Multi-Faith Council and momentarily panicked because I couldn't remember her name. Then I noticed that she was part of a group of about 8 folks from the multi-faith group. Again, I felt connected and hopeful. Yesterday's protest was no different, though it was bigger and better for certain. If you consider spirituality as connecting with something outside of yourself that leads to a relaxed emotional or mental state, then these protests were spiritual experiences for me. I felt connected to other like-minded people. I felt that I was part of the power of community, connected to a community that values justice, equity, and our democratic processes. These civil protests were spiritual actions because they increased my connections and improved my mental state. A few weeks later, while browsing at a library book sale, I noticed a book which contained Henry David Thoreau's essay, Resistance to Civil Government, on the Duty of Civil Disobedience. Writing in 1849, Thoreau criticized American social institutions and policies, most prominently slavery and the Mexican-American War. He argued that individuals should not permit governments to overrule their moral beliefs, and that civil disobedience is an appropriate form of protest against unjust government policies. Thoreau illustrated that argument by describing the night he spent in jail for refusing to pay a poll tax because he didn't want to support the government's war against Mexico. I agree with Thoreau's admonition to prioritize one's conscience over the dictates of law. However, I can't support everything that he wrote. For instance, he stated, "Also, I believe that government is best which governs not at all." In this instance, I disagree with the revered icon of Unitarianism because that statement could be used to justify dismantling government agencies such as the Food and Drug Administration, agencies that protect us from deceptive, ignorant, and/or risky business practices. Nevertheless, Thoreau's essay prompted me to reflect on how Unitarian-Universalist ministers, Christian clergy, and leaders from other religious traditions have challenged oppressive laws and government policies by engaging in civil disobedience and protests. Let's consider the American Civil Rights Movement of the 1950s and 60s. Many of the leaders of that movement were ordained Christian ministers, and there were certainly notable leaders from Judaism and Islam as well. Today I'm highlighting John Lewis because I admire his decades of activism and because today's song about John Lewis fits my message. And thank you again, Melissa and Jeffrey, for your moving version of When You Pray, Move Your Feet. The title of the song comes from a West African proverb that Representative John Lewis quoted in his book, Across That Bridge. The composer of the song, Tim O'Brien, is a bluegrass-oriented singer-songwriter that I've admired for 2 decades. John Lewis was born in 1940 to sharecropper parents in Alabama. As a boy, he aspired to be a preacher, and at age 5, John preached to his family's chickens on the farm. He described his elementary school as a beautiful little building. It was a Rosenwald school, supported by the community. It was the only school we had. Lewis described his family as very poor with very few books in their home. His teacher encouraged him to read, so John read whatever books he could find. At age 15, Lewis preached his first public sermon to a congregation of people. Lewis graduated from the American Baptist Theological Seminary in Nashville, Tennessee, and was ordained as a Baptist minister. He later earned a bachelor's degree in religion and philosophy from Fisk University, a historically black college in Nashville. As a student, Lewis organized sit-ins at segregated lunch counters, and he participated in nonviolent actions to protest voting restrictions and race-based inequalities. Lewis was arrested and jailed many times. During this period, he committed himself to the philosophy which he practiced for the rest of his life, the philosophy and the discipline of nonviolence. In 1965, Lewis organized some of the voter registration efforts during the Selma voting rights campaign. On March 7th of that year, protesters made their first attempt to march from Selma to Montgomery to advocate for voting rights. John Lewis and Hosea Williams led over 600 marchers across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. At the end of the bridge, they were attacked and beaten by Alabama state troopers. Lewis's skull was fractured. Fortunately, he recovered and continued to follow his sacred calling. His civil disobedience continued while serving in Congress. In 2013, he was one of 8 U.S. representatives arrested while holding a sit-in outside the U.S. Capitol building. They were advocating for immigration reform. John Lewis served in Congress for 33 years and died in 2020 at the age of 80. After Lewis and others were beaten on March 7th, 1965, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. put out a call for Northern ministers to join the protests. 3 UU ministers, inspired by the 6 original principles of the Unitarian-Universalist Association, responded to the call to engage in civil disobedience. On March 9th, the protesters attempted a second, larger march. However, when the marchers reached the end of the Pettus Bridge and were again confronted by troopers and police, Dr. King and other clergy leaders stopped and led the crowd in prayer. After they finished praying, King led the crowd back to Selma. Sadly, the violence resumed that evening. After eating dinner at an integrated restaurant in Selma, Reverend James Reeb, Reverend Clark Olson, and Reverend Orloff Miller were attacked by white men with clubs. Reeb died in the hospital 2 days later. Orloff Miller and Clark Olson testified as witnesses at the trial of the alleged murderers, but the all-white jury failed to convict. I highlighted this incident because Reverend Clark Olson was in part a product of this congregation. His father, Reverend Arthur Olson, served as minister here from 1942 to 1957. So Clark attended Ottawa Hill Schools and spent his teenage years here. He returned to First Unitarian of Toledo 10 to 12 years ago and talked about his experience in Selma. So moving forward to 2010, Reverend Susan Frederick Gray of the Unitarian-Universalist Congregation of Phoenix and a number of other UUs gathered to protest an anti-immigrant bill that had been passed by the Arizona Senate. After forming a human chain to block the entrance to the Maricopa County Jail, they were arrested for willfully failing to comply with police orders. Despite being convicted of this charge, Reverend Frederick Gray managed to get a pretty good job a few years later. She served as our UUA president for a standard 6-year term from 2017 to 2023. Reverend Frederick Gray returned to parish ministry in 2024 and now serves the UU congregation of Bloomington, Indiana. In 2022, the Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade was announced during the UUA General Assembly. A protest rally was hastily organized in downtown Portland. I was fortunate to hear Reverend Frederick Gray speak at that ad hoc rally. Although she does not possess imposing physical stature. She speaks with a compassionate and strong moral voice when engaging in public witness. 2 weeks ago, Melissa Jeter mentioned Reverend William Barber II in her service. Here we see him getting arrested for praying in the rotunda of the U.S. Capitol. Reverend Barber is an ordained minister in the Disciples of Christ denomination and director of the Center for Public Theology and Public Policy at Yale Divinity School. In 2018, he revived the Poor People's Campaign, which had been started by Reverend Martin Luther King 5 decades earlier. Barber has also restarted Moral Mondays in Washington, D.C. to restore morality in the public sphere. These protests usually include prayer and civil disobedience. So far, Reverend Barber has been arrested twice this spring. Barber and his clergy colleagues maintain that the 2025 U.S. budget is not only immoral, but it will be a great, big, deadly deal. They prayed in the rotunda of the Capitol on behalf of the pain and suffering they fear that this budget will cause. The current president of the UUA is the Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt. She speaks at protests and rallies as well. In this photo, she's participating in a multi-faith vigil at the U.S. Capitol to call attention to the erosion of democratic principles in our country. The red text says, "We have come together to ask our leaders to embody the same courage their constituents are demonstrating across the country, rising in resistance to direct incursions on free speech, due process, electoral justice, and the practice of our faith." On a regional level, Unitarian-Universalist Justice Ohio, UUJO, is an independent nonprofit organization that serves the 38 UU congregations and fellowships across Ohio. Their mission is to offer education, advocacy, and action consistent with UU religious principles and to witness with and on behalf of marginalized groups and individuals. UUJO is a good resource for learning about state issues and state politics. They are always looking for new supporters and or new board members. John Lewis said it was important to engage in good trouble, necessary trouble, in order to achieve change. In 2024, First Unitarian was recognized as a good trouble congregation by the UU The Vote organization. Good trouble congregations engage in activities to bring out the vote in elections. Thank you to all who worked to bring out the vote in recent elections. And there are other good trouble actions going on here. The Unitarian Action Group, you can see the name here. The slide might be out of date, but watch for future events. This group, led by Joe Moran and Gwen Wilson, focuses on bringing in outside speakers and creating events to engage with the Toledo community. They're working on a summer-fall event at First U related to civil disobedience and the right to peaceful assembly. And they hope to have a similar program on immigration later this year. So stay tuned for those events. Social Action Saturdays happen here, or in Fellowship Hall, the second and fourth Saturdays of the month. These activities are organized by Melanie Christensen and have included making buttons and posters, as well as bags for homeless folks. So here are 2 buttons. I realize you can't see them, but this one says Good Trouble Congregation, and this one has a little green footprint, which I'm sure means when you pray, move your feet. Or maybe it means something else. But these are in the entryway out there. You can pick them up and wear them wherever you like. And I know you can't read the details on the next slide, but you should look for these signs. I just made a collage of all the signs there superimposed on our UU values. These are all signs that you can take to protests that are Social Action Saturday team made. I took a couple with me yesterday. You can see them in the hall. When you go down the hall, go to the right towards the choir room, you'll see them hanging there. And while you're looking for things, you should look for the resist table in Fellowship Hall on Sundays after coffee hour. Cindy Gilmore and Sue Childers invite you to write postcards to our public officials and tell them what you're concerned about. They have addresses for senators, Congress, state legislators, and local leaders. They will also happily accept donations for more stamps. Cindy runs this table when in town, but she will miss a few Sundays in July, August, and September. So if you're interested in volunteering by setting up and putting away the equipment, please check with Cindy. And of course, Chico does not want to be left out of these spiritual activities. Like Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, Chico does not possess imposing physical stature. But Chico is a very powerful spokes canine. And you probably can't see this sign, but this says, they were never eating dogs and cats. So I've highlighted the activities in our congregation. I've given examples of prominent religious leaders engaging in civil disobedience, and I talked about my reactions after 2 civil protests. When it comes to protesting, we can each be in different lanes or take different roles. No role is better than another. We have varying levels of risk, tolerance, and different limitations. If you have people dependent on you, you might not want to risk physical injury or being detained away from home. Health issues or disabilities might limit what you can do. Job duties can limit your availability. Nevertheless, when you feel anxiety or stress about the state of our nation, participating in some type of civil action, participating in actions that you are comfortable with, might just make you feel better. And if enough people take small actions, we will make a difference. As much as I liked the song by Tim O'Brien, I felt called to change the words a bit. When you pray, move your feet. Bring you love to the people you meet. When a hard wind blows and the clouds rain down, move your feet. You make a joyful sound. Move your feet, because we can't stop until we reach that mountaintop. Stronger and stronger, the more we do, each and every time we follow through. May it be so. Amen.
At this time for the offering, we will pass the baskets here in the sanctuary. All of you, including our YouTube viewers, can also donate electronically or by mail. And I also want to add, if you have not put in your pledge for the coming church year, your financial pledge, please do that as our new fiscal year begins on July 1st, and we would like to have accurate records for that. Thank you for being generous and for helping Unitarian Universalism to thrive in Toledo. And for our offertory hymn, let's sing number 374, Gather the Spirit.
347.
347.
The Spirit, God is the bride. Awesome and fires will kindle one flame. It's the mystery of His own. Ours is this time to be all the same.
It is the coming soon part of our service where we'll tell you what's scheduled for next Sunday. We give some announcements, and we also let you know what's up for right after the service. Next Sunday, join us for Spiritual Forum in Fellowship Hall at 9:45 a.m., where we'll have our second ukulele lesson of the summer. I'll be away, but Reverend Tim will be leading. Continue working on those C, F, and G chords, and a new song or two will help us keep at it. I have to add this, there was an article 50 years ago in the New York Times about a country singer who said, and they described him as 3 chords and the truth. That's all you need, 3 chords. This is the beginning of a ukulele chorus at First Unitarian, and after our 6 lessons this summer, we'll play a song at the in-gathering service on September 7th. You don't have to be present at all 6 lessons to play, but we hope you'll be at as many as you can and learn the song. There's plenty of room for those who might not feel musically proficient. The goal is to have fun and perhaps with a bit of silliness mixed in. If you'd like to take part, please bring your own uke. We might probably have 1 or 2 spares. And if there's a shortage, we can pass the instruments around. But you need your own uke to practice. So come for a different kind of summer school. For the 11 a.m. service next Sunday, we will live stream the Sunday service from the General Assembly of the Unitarian-Universalist Association, which is held this year in Baltimore. The service will be led by Reverend Dr. Nicole C. Kirk, who is the Reverend Dr. J. Frank and Alice Schulman, Chair of Unitarian Universalist History at Meadville Lombard Theological School, where she's an associate professor. She's also the program minister at All Souls Unitarian Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Our service next Sunday will be held in Fellowship Hall, and we expect to have coffee available.
Our church has many activities, some of which might interest you. Please check our website, uutoledo.org, or our UUFYI newsletter, accessible from the website, for upcoming events. The final coming soon entry is for me to invite you to join us in Fellowship Hall after today's service for coffee, conversation, and social time.
Let's have one more observance of spiritual practice. We have gone beyond ourselves with a pastoral time and turned within for meditation, contemplation, and prayer. Now, recognizing the Buddhist thread in our congregation, we will share a time of metta, having for and sending to all beings love, kindness, and compassion. We also have pagans among us, and so we'll follow the metta with the Wiccan reed. Let's recite those words together. May I, may we, and may all beings be well, be happy, be peaceful, be safe, awaken to the light of our true nature, and be free. And ye harm none, do what ye will. Now, please join me in saying the words on the screen while Tim extinguishes the chalice. We send the flame from our Unitarian Universalist chalice with the love on which we center everything, to fire up the world and spread equity, generosity, interdependence, justice, pluralism, and transformation. Go in peace, holding, knowing, and centering love in your lives, and sharing love in your actions. Merry meet, merry part, and blessed be.